Box scores cannot do this game justice, and I didn't watch it. So, Bears-Vikings, 48-41 Chicago. I didn't watch it, and just from looking at the stat lines, I can tell that no box score can do this game justice. So, there's not a ton I can say, but when you're talking about a quarterback throwing 4 interceptions and still leading his team to 41 points, when you're talking about the Bears offense, which was theorized to be the worst or bottom 3 in the league coming into this season, when you're just talking about, everything that happened in this game, you know that you had I don't know if it was an epic game, but it was entertaining, maybe even a little funny. Minnesota, 439 yards of total offense, 41 points, over 100, close to 160 yards rushing. Big games from several of their receivers that have been much maligned all season. Jared Allen coming up big with a couple sacks and forcing a fumble, and to still lose. The best laid plans go to waste. Penalties and bad special teams and defense. I guess that much is obvious. The special teams errors speak for themselves, both of them. Chris Cluey, fumbling that punt handoff and trying to still kick it. Absolutely not, man. Absolutely not. The Bears, maybe we need to take Orton for real. Maybe Orton is the real deal. Maybe we gotta stop anticipating him to fall apart and have a bad game, because he looks good right now. Maybe it's time to just start expecting that as the status quo, oddly enough. Matt Forte is having a nice, solid rookie season, but he's got to bring his yards per carry up. He could be doing much better. He's getting enough carries to have a season close to a Pro Bowl, maybe even make the Pro Bowl. He's just got to do a little more with him. I want to see more long carries from him. Marty Booker, the last several weeks, really, he's come back from the grave. Muhammad said that was where receivers go to die, but Booker decided to run over there, and he's found new life. This Bears team is starting to get a little more interesting. I mean, they're using Greg Olsen as a weapon now. They're trying to use Devin Hester as a weapon. It has worked to moderate success so far, but it needs to get better. They're very banged up secondary that had all these backups. Corey Graham, Zach Bowman, Truman McBride, and, well, even Kevin Payne, I guess. All picking off passes. So this kind of reminds me of a fun Bears team from like 2005. To me, that Bears team was funner than the 06 team. I don't know why. Cowboys-Rams. This is the big story on YouTube right now, of course, because CNS does run this. I said it. So, when you're talking about a 20-point blowout to a team that is still probably pretty bad, they're obviously better now that Scott Linehan is out and Jim Haslett is in. But still, of course, heads are going to roll after a game like this. So, where do you start? What hasn't been said? I hear clamoring for Brooks Bollinger, and no. I don't know if you saw Brooks Bollinger when he was a Jet, but I can't believe he's better than anyone. I really can't. I mean, yeah, Brad Johnson played bad, but he's still got the smarts. What happened on Sunday was, to me, more than anything, some pretty poor play calling by the Jason Garrett and the Cowboys, which I'll get into more in one sec. And occasionally some unfortunate luck on his part. He had a couple of tipped interceptions and desperation trying to make a play. I'm not saying he played well. I'm not saying that there are excuses to excuse every bad throw he made. But you're better off with Brad Johnson than Brooks Bollinger, who can't do anything right. I'll say that much. Jason Garrett. Last year, T.O. had his best games when you put him in motion at the line of scrimmage. because then it's harder to jam him. In fact, you really can't jam him. But you're not putting him in motion this year, and he hasn't broken 90 yards in a game yet. 2 plus 2 is 4. I think pimply-faced 18-year-old, which maybe that's me, maybe that's me, playing Madden, could figure this out by now, and Jason Garrett can't. And Jason Garrett is in line to be the future head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones loves him, and a lot of people want him to be the next head coach of the Cowboys, and he can't even figure out what it seems like just about everyone else can figure out. Put T.O. in motion, and he'll go back to having big games. Where was Tashard Choice? I see he got a couple carries. I think he should have had at least 10 in this game. I think Dallas should have ran the ball more, period. Barber was productive. He had 100 yards on 18 carries. Barber played pretty well other than the fumble. If you kept the ball on the ground, you couldn't throw interceptions, which obviously Brad Johnson had a problem with, and maybe you would lose the game, but you would have a much better chance at winning if you just kept it on the ground with Barber and Choice. And if you have to, use Deion Anderson. You know, a lot has been said about the defense. They're getting a good pass rush, actually. They had 5 sacks. DeMarcus Ware played out of his mind, out of his skull. But, I mean, D-Ware's been playing great all season. He could have a legendarily good season if he keeps this up, but secondary is completely lost. Mike Jenkins, a rookie that I expected to come in, play well immediately. He looked lost out there. He gave up that big TD to Donnie Avery. Couldn't stop the run. Really bad angles taken on running plays. All around bad performance. Couldn't force turnovers. Couldn't stop them when they needed to. Other than DeMarcus Ware, there's nothing good you can say about this. Last thing you gotta comment here on Dallas is the offensive line, which was one of the best in the league last year, and so far this year you got very little good to say about it. It's been pretty much all bad. 3 sacks given up to the Rams, who do not have the best defense in the world, if you all forgotten. Run blocking has never been very good. It's always seemed to have been on Marion Barber's abilities to break tackles and Felix Jones's ability to run past them. That's why Julius couldn't do much there last year. Penalties, 8 penalties, and you know, I do expect someone to get fired. Garrett has been really bad this year. He was great last year. He's been bad this year. Pretty much nothing but. Brian Stewart, at best he's been average. At his worst he's been atrocious. I don't think Wade Phillips is much of a leader of men right now. I think a lot of Cowboys fans seem to agree with that. I think, especially if they drop the next game or the next 2 games, which could completely happen. Jerry Jones will not fire Jason Garrett. He likes him too much. But Brian Stewart is totally expendable, and taking over for him, Dave Campo, probably. So, bad time for the Cowboys, but don't count them out yet. There's still a lot of football to be played. That's not a cliche. That's just calling it like I see it. Titans, Chiefs. Blowout as expected. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Chiefs couldn't get on the board until it was too late to mean anything. They used all 3 quarterbacks. It was like a college game where you had a 3 quarterback system. It was kind of funny. Couldn't get anything going on offense until near the end of the game when, you know, Bo and Gonzalez started playing pretty well. I'm rooting for Gonzalez this year. I'm always rooting for Gonzalez. He's a class act and a cool guy. I'd like to see him play well. Offensive line couldn't protect anybody. They gave up like 320 yards on the ground, which is completely ridiculous. You can't say enough about that. I mean, looking at these stats, they just jump right out at you. Lindell White, 149 yards. Chris Johnson, 168 yards. Just complete domination. Collins just had to sit back there and hand it off, and then he could just play with his dick for the rest of the play because It was probably going to be a long play too, because that's just total domination. And if this team wins next week against Indianapolis, it's smooth sailing from here on out.